G'day fellas. We're not mucking around today, we're getting straight into the action. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can defend a rush. Now, the civilization I've chosen is Sweden, but you're able to do this with pretty much any other civilization. There shouldn't be too much of an issue with crossing it over to any other civilization that's got the governor age up politician, because what we're going to be doing is looking at defending a rush with the governor politician and the best way that we can achieve and put up a solid defense while still maintaining our economy. So let's get into it. So right now I'm looking at the game pause screen, you guys are as well. The very first thing that's going to be happening when you're looking at this screen when you pop into your game is you're going to be moving your settlers from their starting position onto the food crates. Now there's a few reasons why we're going to do this and not let the AI do it. The first one is because sometimes the AI mucks it up and you start to see settlers doing backflips and hurdles all over the crates, and that's not what we want to do. We want to have a nice, efficient, smooth transfer of the resources by the settlers. Now there's a number of ways that you can achieve this, but I'm going to be focusing on the most basic and the easiest one to do today. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click the settler that's at the bottom. So the bottommost settler, we're going to double click him. That's going to select all of our settlers, and then we're going to click on the furthest away food crate. From there, as the settlers are walking across, we're going to take one or two off the back of the line and put them onto the food crate that they've just walked past. That's the very first thing that we're going to do. Now, some people might ask, well, why don't you just drag a box over all the settlers instead of double clicking them? Surely that's quicker. And while it might be quicker, there's a problem. The default game options enable a setting called Enable Easy Drag Military. Now this is a good setting, you want to keep this on, but the problem is at the beginning of the game when all your units are really close together, if you accidentally select your explorer, it's going to mean that your villagers just do their own thing and they're going to run into each other, and you just want to avoid it. So once you've carefully micromanaged each settler onto their respective crate, the next thing you're going to do is move your explorer. Now you can do this just with a single click. Just move him out. Just move him anywhere. Doesn't really matter what direction. You just send him. And in this case, I've also spawned with a rickshaw, so I'm just going to be moving that rickshaw as well. I'm going to scout it out because I don't need it straight away to turn into a forest grove. So what I can do is just send him out, explore. So I'm just going to do that with a single click as well. And then I'm going to make sure that I come back to my town center in time, and I'm going to start clicking Q. Now, Q on my keyboard is for my settler hotkey, and it's so important that we get this down. The settler has to be produced immediately, as soon as possible, which is why we've got all of our settlers gathering from our crates at the beginning. We don't have one or two splitting off to gather the hunt. We don't have one gathering the wood crate. Every single settler is on the food crate because it's imperative that we get our age up as soon as possible. And the best way to get an age up as soon as possible is to start villager production as soon as possible. Alright, so now that we've got that out of the way, let's begin the video. After I've done everything that I said I've done, what I'm going to do is take two settlers and I'm going to shoot an animal. I'm going to make sure that I shoot it at 10 seconds or before. And the reason why is because the animals in the hunts take around 11 to 12 seconds before they activate or before they wake up. And once they're awoken, then they're going to start hearing the shots that your settlers are shooting at their colleagues, and they're going to run the fuck away. Yes, I know. Pause champ. There's going to be a lot more pause champs coming in this game. Unfortunately, the actual video is quite short, but there's a lot of stuff to cover. So I do appreciate your patience with my pausing. If you guys did just want to watch me absolutely destroying some AI, then I'm more than happy to upload that video, but we'll have to do that another day because we got to get back to this. So as I was saying before, we want to avoid shooting our deer away from the town center because it's important that we keep all of our herd underneath the TC. That way it minimizes the travel time that our settlers need to take to get to the herd. By doing this, it means that instead of having to walk a villager to the other side of the herd and then shoot back, I'm just simply able to shoot the herd and walk directly to it. Hopefully, the herd will then naturally migrate towards my town center, and I don't even have to move a settler, and I'm able to herd it to my town center. In the event that it migrates away from my town center, that's not a problem. I can just do exactly what I would have done normally, and that's send the settler outside the hunt and then shoot it back in. Once I've sent my settlers out to the hunt, I'm going to keep a couple back just to gather the wood. It's important that you don't gather too much wood. You want to gather just enough that you need so that you can afford to build your house. It's important you don't go over this, because every second that you spend gathering from a wood crate is a second that you're not spending gathering from a hunt. For civilizations that get bonuses from their house, like the British, the Inca, or the Swedish, it's important that you build your house as soon as possible. As the sooner you build it, the sooner you start getting that bonus from it. So the reason why I'm putting my torp down immediately is because it's going to be able to start gathering coin, gathering from the berry bush, and gathering from the hunt at the same time, and it's going to be able to do that from the very beginning of the game. Then what I'm going to do is shift-click my Explorer and my Rickshaw so that they can search around the map. Now in this game, I'm not actually going to be picking up any treasures, because it's a game against AI. I want to preserve the integrity of the game, and I want to show you that what I'm doing is possible without any treasures. The more treasures you get, the faster it's going to push this strategy, and it's going to increase the chances of you winning. You need to be cognizant of the hunt direction. So that's the direction that the hunt is moving. So in this case, I became aware that my hunt was moving away from my town center. So normally I wouldn't be doing this. I would normally be leaving all my settlers underneath my town center to gather as quickly as possible. But the problem with this hunt here is because it's moving away from the town center, it means that it's going to head down into the trees and be even harder for me to herd. It's important that if I'm playing against a rush, I've got food that's accessible under my town center and that it's safe. I can't access food if it's out further than my town center, so I need that in, and I need to make sure that I've got that. Otherwise, I won't survive. It's only a small thing, but I make sure to micro the settler so that in between shots he moves closer to the deer. That way I'm saving 2 or 1 villager seconds, which could be the difference between hitting a batch of Corollians or not hitting a batch of Corollians. It's only something minor, but it can have a major effect. You need to make sure that your new villagers from the town center have got hunts that they can go to. You don't want them dilly-dallying, fighting over a hunt that already, is on the ground and being gathered from by 6 or 7 villagers. So what you want to do is you want to shoot a new hunt that's closer to your town center. That way that any new settlers that you do build are going to be able to get there a lot faster and start gathering and contributing towards that all-important food total that you need to gather. As the food that's in a carcass continues to move towards 0, the closer it gets, the more settlers I'm going to pull off it. The reason why is because you don't want 8 settlers getting up at the same time and moving all together to a new carcass. The first reason why is because of pathing. It's going to create a massive pathing issue. The second reason why is if you're about 10 food from age up and you're sitting there spamming your button and the settlers all jump up at the same time and look for a new hunt, that's infuriating. So the best way that you can mitigate this is slowly transferring settlers from the primary carcass that they're on off to secondary carcasses. When you're herding animals in, it's important that you don't kill any animals that you don't need to kill. So you can use the Alt key to check what the health of the animal is before you actually shoot it. In this case, I'm avoiding killing an animal that I don't need to, and therefore saving myself food from decay. It goes without saying to always be listening for your shipment, and as soon as you hear it, make sure you queue it straight away. Every second that you delay is 3 lost villager seconds if you're sending 3 villagers. For the other shipment, in this case I've got blueberries, this is a shipment that I can send delayed. I don't need to send it immediately, because the second torp that I'm going to be building isn't going to be until at least 3 minutes and 30 seconds, so I'm not particularly worried about that. The 3 settlers though, that's important that I get that out as soon as possible. Throughout the first stage, it's important to continue herding to make sure that all of the hunts are underneath your town center. This way, when you begin aging up and you shift the majority of your settlers over to wood, you're not going to have to move it off wood, come out, herd it, and then move back over to wood. There's a number of different ways that you can micro a hunt and herd it into your town center. For me, I've learnt from experience about what the worst way to do it is and about what the best way to do it is. So, what's the worst way? The worst way is the shift click. That's where you shift click a settler behind the hunt and then you click an animal that's inside the hunt. Now the reason why this is the worst is because the hunt is not rigid. The hunt is flexible. The hunt moves. So what happens if that animal moves behind your settler in just the brief 6 seconds that it's taken for your settler to move all the way over there? It's going to shoot the hunt away. And now it's going to take twice as long to get it underneath your town center than if you just not shift clicked it in the first place. So the way that I encourage people to do it is send out your settler in the direction of the hunt. From there, it's probably going to go idle and you'll pick it up. When you pick it up, have a look at it and see where the hunt is at. If your settler's in the middle of the hunt, just take a shot at the animal towards your town center, and then you're going to continue following it. What you're going to do is you're going to watch the animals as they sit. You need to shoot the one that's the furthest away from your town center. Now, because of the way that herd reset time works, it's going to take another 12 seconds before these animals hear your shots again. They're not going to be scared of your musket anymore, at least not until 12 seconds. The reason why that you're shooting the one at the back is so that when you go back to herd the next time, if the hunt has moved in the opposite direction of your town center, there's still going to be animals that you're able to shoot at. You want to avoid moving too much when you're doing this and keep your villager on food the whole time. But by shooting the one at the back, it means all it's going to need to do is just pop its head up, shoot the animal, and then pop its head back down, making sure obviously that you use the Alt key so that you don't kill more than one. One of the very first rules that I was taught in Age of Empires 3 was never have an idle TC. Always be constructing settlers, and if you're not, make sure you're aging up. But this doesn't always apply. So in this case, I haven't had enough food income to be able to age up without idle TC time. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to simply let my food gather up until 800 instead of training a new settler. If I was to train a new settler in this situation, what it would mean is that my age up time would be way too late and that the rush that would be coming to hit me would be significantly more impactful. For the Swedish, even though the logistician is by far the best politician, there's really not much use to an arsenal if you're dead. So in this situation, I've opted to take the outpost and 200 coin because it allows me to provide a more solid defense. While I'm waiting for my food to trickle over 800, I'm spamming my left click button on the governor to make sure that as soon as I hit 800, it's immediately queued and I'm immediately aging up because every second counts. Now, depending on what civilization you're playing is going to depend on where you move your settlers once you begin aging up. For me, on the Swedes, I'm going to be moving absolutely everyone to wood, except for those that are a little bit too far away. So it's okay to keep 1 or 2 on food, but absolutely everybody else, they go over to wood. Now let's begin talking about what happens in the transition. Now this serves true for every single civilization, not just the Swedish. When you're playing against a rush, you need unit shipments. It's the best way to bolster your army early game, and without it, you're going to be at a significant disadvantage. Which is why I'm encouraging you to take a trading post as early as you can. That means sticking everybody over to wood and getting that trading post down immediately. Now, this serves 2 purposes by doing this. The first one, it's a diversion tactic. As soon as you've got that trade post down, then the enemy realizes, hey, I don't have to go for his base, I can go for his trade post. Now that's a great thing. If that happens, beautiful, because it allows you more time to build up your mass. The idea of a rush is that you're coming in hard and you're coming in fast. You're going to try and take them by surprise, you're going to try and take them before they've got their racks up, you're going to take them before they can get units out. But what this does is it creates that diversion. They're attracted to it. So that's the first point. The second point is that it's going to trickle XP into you. So for the Swedes in particular, they've got 3 unit shipments in Age 2. That's a really huge amount of extra units that they're able to get that they wouldn't have otherwise, which is why it's really important you take that trading post early and take the closest one possible. That way it encourages them to come towards it. After I've got my trading post down, I'm going to keep my settlers on wood. The idea here is that I want to build up a torp wall. The torp wall is going to prevent units from coming in from that angle and allow me to secure my units in a nice little pocket. As the Swedes, I'm very careful to make sure that my herd is close to my torps, but at the same time still safe under my town center. It takes a very precise shot to make sure that this works. As soon as you age up, you have a number of actions that you need to do immediately. The first thing you need to do is if you've aged up with an outpost wagon, you need to put that outpost wagon down immediately. The second thing you need to do is send a unit shipment from the home city. If you know the rush is coming, the sooner your units are here, the better. Finally, you're going to queue your barracks and make sure that it gets built immediately. The trick here is grabbing 4 to 5 settlers, and after you've sat the barracks down on its foundations, you're going to spam right clicks on it. The reason why you're going to do this is because if you simply press the hotkey for barracks with 5 settlers and task them all to work it and you don't intervene, what's going to happen is settlers are going to walk over the foundations and they're going to wait for each other to all get in place, and you can lose 3, 4, 5 seconds off the total build time. By spamming the build key, it sends the command to each individual settler that they are to build the barracks immediately. That way they don't wait for each other. That way there's no fussing about. The barracks foundations get put down immediately and start getting worked on straight away. Often you'll find that you want to move settlers from one side of your town centre to the other. And instead of having them walk all the way around the town centre, what you can do is click on the town centre, have them enter the town centre, and then ungarrison them out the other side, which is a technique that you'll see very often used by high-level players. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to change your hotkey in the settings right now to G. G is a hotkey that's very rarely used, but it's very easy to reach on the keyboard. That way, you can put your settlers in the town centre, use your town centre to right-click the resource you want them to go to, and simply press G. And that way, they're all moving over there immediately. I think the default is something like Control-Shift F7 or something like that, so it's important that you change it to G. With the crates that arrived with the governor, you're just going to gather them with one settler. It's not important that you gather them quickly, there's no rush here. All you're going to do is just make sure that you've got them picked up and that they're sitting in your inventory. You only need one settler to do that. You're able to see here that I actually forgot to herd this hunt at the top, which means that my settlers now are exposed to any enemies that are going to come in, and they have to walk further, so it's a double whammy. While it's important that you maintain villager production throughout the early game, don't be afraid to have a couple of seconds where you don't queue a settler at all. That's perfectly okay, especially if you've got units that are about to come out and you need to make sure that they get out on time. When it comes to macro, each civilization is going to be macroing differently. For the Swedes, what I find works best is during transition, you're 100% on wood. Once you've aged up, you continue 100% on wood. As soon as your barracks is on the ground, that is when you want to transfer settlers over from wood onto food. Now, the ratio that I normally use is 4 settlers on wood and then everybody else on food. Once I start to build up an excess of food, then I'm a bit more willing to transfer settlers over from food to wood. Now, keep in mind in this game, I'm not actually playing against anybody except for Suleiman, and he's on easy difficulty, so I'm not going to be losing any units, but I'm still able to keep up throughout the game with my unit production and my shipments by just keeping 4 settlers on wood. Once I'm in a position where I'm confident that I've held off the rush, I move settlers from food to wood. That way, I'm investing more in my future by creating more torps. When you're defending against a rush, don't be afraid to keep your villagers in the town center. Your town center does 90 damage, which is a huge amount. You can press the Alt key to see how much health the enemy units have got. Make sure that you use your town center to pick off the low health units. That way, when your units are fighting, they're fighting more efficiently against the enemy. By the 7th minute, I've been able to amass 13 Carolians, 8 crossbows and 2 leather cannons, which is a pretty formidable amount, considering that if anybody wants to come in here, they're going to have to deal with a town center and an outpost in addition to my 2 leather cannons. I'm confident that with this strategy, you should be able to hold off most rushes that you're going to be up against. It's important though, once you've been able to defeat the rush, you don't just completely stop unit production. You want to keep your unit production up, but you need to be thinking more about your economy. That means that you're going to be shipping blueberries. That means that you're going to be shipping ironworks. It's important to get those cards in to keep your economy up and going. The final part of this video is going to be focusing on Minutemen and timing with Minutemen. With the way that you position your buildings, you can force the enemy into a specific location so that you're very easily able to flank them. I've done this through the construction of my torp wall at the front, which I've used to connect with my outpost that creates a barrier, and I've also got the barracks behind, which prevents the enemy from really trying to push through. If they want to come and grab that barracks, they're going to have to come around and get it. So I'm going to move to another example here. So I've done a little bit of cheating. Don't have a look at my resources or don't look at my village account. We're just going to really focus on what's actually happening on the screen. So we're going to take a look at the game time. So it's 4 minutes 35. So 4 minutes 35 is normally when you're going to be aging up. So I've had the liberty to build my outpost and my barracks here just to emphasize for the demonstration just how severe this can be, because this can really be used as a timing at any point. So at 4:35, normally you're going to age up. You're going to send your very first shipment, probably going to be leather cannons for the Swedish. the enemy might push on you. And if they've got a particularly large army or a unit that you hadn't expected, what you can do is you can cancel your shipment and you can wait for your barracks to complete construction. Now, when you're calling Minutemen, it's a huge investment to do, but the reason why it's so huge is because it can turn the tide of battle so significantly. So the best way to time it and the best way to achieve it is by making everything appear at the exact same time. You want the enemy to think that they're just having the time of their lives. Maybe they've got 15 Janissaries in your base, they're burning down your outpost, the next thing coming up is your house, or maybe they're going for the barracks and then they're going to be looking straight for your outpost, but you want to let them think they're having the time of their lives. So this is the timing. A Carolean takes 33 seconds to train. A shipment in the Second Age takes 40 seconds to arrive. Minutemen take 5 seconds to arrive. So the order that you're going to be doing things is sending your shipment first, then after 7 seconds you're going to be training your Caroleans, and then with 5 seconds remaining you're going to hit your Minutemen and you're going to make them all pop out at the same time. This is what it looks like. If you think that I've missed anything in this video, or if there was anything that you didn't understand, please leave a comment down below, and I'll make sure that I go through those comments and answer any questions that you might have. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and taken something away from it, and thank you very much for watching.